which has led to Luke being called a spoon.
Then went to the chip shop on the side of the ground. That was all right. Wasn't anything outstanding, but I mean, it did the job.
Hello and welcome to EFL at URN, Season 2, Episode 5. I'm one of your co-hosts, Harry Waring, and I'm joined by Luke Green. How are we, Lukey?
I'm feeling very good after a very good away day at Fleetwood on Saturday. It was
Yeah,
great stuff. Really good. I really enjoyed it.
good. Sounds exciting. We are going to talk about that today as well. That's going to be instead of your usual question. Thank you for that. Right. We're going to go back to our usual show, which we haven't done this season yet. We've done last episode. We looked at 4 teams in each division, saw how they got on at the start of the season. We've also done our quickfire predictions, which has led to Luke being called a spoon. So that is all.
Yeah. Well, whose predictions got more impressions on TikTok? Was it me? I think so.
Yeah, but you did get a lot of hate, so it's all right.
No, I didn't know. I got a lot of praise saying ball knowledge. And I mean, you kindly left off that these predictions were done before the start of the season as well.
Yeah, I did. Yes, I know. Well, actually, no. Actually, I think I might have included it, but people didn't read that. Right then, though, let's get on with this podcast, and we're going to start in League Two as we usually do. So let's look at 3 games. We've already selected them, and the first game we're looking at is Swindon Town 6, Crawley Town 0. Absolute thrashing for Swindon here. Crawley Town, they had a great start to the season. They're up to 7th before this game, but now it sees them drop down to 13th and gives them a -5 goal difference already. Me and you, Luke, have both predicted Crawley to be in the relegation zone. Their start to the season sort of made us look a bit foolish, but do you think this could be the start of the downfall?
I don't really know, really. They did sell Dom Telford to Barrow earlier this week, and that was a big shock. Their statement signing from last season is now gone, probably because he was on too much money they couldn't afford, because the owners thought they were going to go straight up to League One. But I think even in this game, they weren't that bad. Or the XG doesn't say so anyway, with 2.99 XG, according to FOTMob, for Swindon, against 1.77 for Crawley Town. I mean, they did miss a couple of sitters early on in the first half too. Basically 2 open goals that they missed. So if they score them 2 goals, it's a very different game. But Swindon, after scoring 5 goals last week, have now scored 6 in this one. And it was started off by your mate, Dan Kemp. But yeah, Jake Young is the real star of this match, really. 4 goals and 1 assist this match. He's now the league's top goal scorer, and he is on fire at the moment.
He is indeed. 4 goals in this game. Was it 2 or 3 in the game before? Dan Kemp, as you said there, goal and 2 assists. So happy that he's gone out on loan from Dons. Phenomenal bit of business from us there. So make sure he gets that game time. But yeah, Crawley, it's a bit of a weird one. The Dom Telford leaving is a bit of a shock to me, to be honest. He didn't really do a lot whilst he was there, but then again, he was one of their best players. Orsi, there's a lot of pressure on him now. I spoke about him last week saying he's going to be big for them. Well, he needs to play even better now to fill the shoes and also get on the score sheet. And yeah, it's gone down to which team is more clinical this one, because yes, 6-0 sounds quite bad, but you're completely right when looking at the stats here. Crawley had 14 shots and Swindon only had 17. So you start tucking a few of those shots away and it could have been a little bit tighter. Swindon, though, let's not take it away from them. Are they a team you think we should be looking out for?
If they keep on scoring goals at this rate, of course they're going to be, but they don't look stable at the back, though. Not really. So I don't think they are big favourites to get into them playoffs, even though they're just off them. because well, they need to sort out the defence first before they start really thinking about challenging at the top end of the table.
Yes, I do agree with you there. I think we'll have to keep an eye on them, but there's not long of this transfer window. Is it 2, 3 days? What even is the date today? 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 days. So, or today actually, if you're listening to this when it's been released. But you know, we'll keep an eye on them, and yeah, they need to sort that defense out. Right, let's move on to another game then that happened in the league, and we're going to look at Mansfield Town 3, Stockport County 2, and again, two teams here which have both had sort of different starts to the league. Mansfield Town up in seventh, I believe they're unbeaten as well at the moment. Whilst Stockport County all the way down in 19th. We spoke a little bit about them last week. Still sort of dealing with this playoff hangover, is what I'll call it, aren't they, Luke?
Yeah, he's looking pretty similar to last season's start, really. They've started awfully. The performances probably don't warrant this bad start, but they have had some tough games to come up against. The Mansfield, obviously, Barrow, Bradford, Walsall, and Gillingham. Or right, all them teams you'd expect to be pretty high up the table come the end of the season. So it's not been the best of starts to Stockport, but so haven't their opposition really as well. So I mean, I wouldn't be too alarmed if I was a Stockport County fan. I think that they can, and they've proven that they can make up the ground throughout the rest of the season. But it's not the best start for them, considering that most people tip them to be in the automatics.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a slow start. We've seen it time and time again where a team loses at Wembley. Although you can keep the same players, it does have a little factor to play there. But looking at Mansfield, then they've had a brilliant transfer window, in my opinion. Brought in George Williams on a free from Cambridge, Aidan Flint from Stoke City, Sheffield Wednesday last year, and that's just a couple of many signings. Obviously, this pairs nicely with the signing of Caledon, which they did last Christmas. He's got off flying again, 2 goals in this game, and they've still got Reece Oates and Luke Akins up top. So I think they've last winter, so they strengthened their attack, they've strengthened the defense amazingly now. What do you think, Luke? Because I think these could be real playoff contenders.
Yeah, so do I. I think they may be automatic challenges this season. Uh, yeah, Keeler Dunn is proving week in, week out that he's too good for League Two, scoring 5 goals already and 1 assist. And then Akins too, he scored quite a few goals last season as well. 13 goals for Mansfield last season, and I think he'll continue to build on it. They've just got a really solid squad at the moment, and if if the manager does mess this one up again, I think he really has to go. To be honest with you.
I think Clough, well, fair enough. I mean, Clough has been there for a while now, so it'll be interesting. I think this is going to be a good year for them. But yeah, they've had a flying start, and as I've already said, seventh in the league, unbeaten at the moment. Couldn't ask for more. Right then, let's jump to our final game in League Two, and we have chosen Gillingham versus Stockport. This one went the way of not Stockport, sorry, Gillingham versus Colchester. This one went the way of Colchester by 3 goals to 0. This is Colchester's first win of the year and also Gillingham's first loss of the year. Let's start with Gillingham then, Luke. Obviously, this comes after 5 of their players were involved in a car crash. None of them were hurt, but it's not ideal. And also, it proves that a team that looks so strong can be beaten by the weak. Well, I'm going to say weaker side, just because Colchester were bottom of the league at this point. What do you think?
I think it proves that anybody in this league can beat anybody on the day. But I do think Colchester were threatening to win some of the games that they lost. And also Gillingham were threatening to lose some of the games that they won 1-0. So it doesn't come as a massive shock. The scoreline does. The result doesn't come as a massive shock, but the scoreline does. You didn't really expect Gillingham to concede 3 in 20 or so minutes against Colchester United. Not really. Again, if I was a Gillingham fan, would be too alarmed at this. Again, if they keep winning 4 out of the 5 games they play, they're going to go up automatically, aren't they? So it's not too bad. And again, if I was a Colchester United fan, I'd be encouraged by this performance. Obviously, it's probably the biggest performance they've had all season so far. And I think it will calm some of the nerves that probably were brewing in that fan base. And again, they've got one more game on everybody else too. So if they get a draw or a win, then they're right up the table again.
Yes, they are. I think it was a slow start, but hopefully this is more to come. One question then I'm going to ask you about Colchester is Chabedu still at the club. Obviously, IFL's young player of the year last year. It seemed to have a lot of attention at the start of the window, but not so much now. Do you think he's going to stay there, or do you think these next 2 days could see him depart up the league?
I think he'll stay, and I don't really know why. Because I mean, I think you heard reports early in the season, early in the window, that Stoke were after him for over £1 million. And if you were Colchester, I think you'd be snapping your hand off. Really, £1 million to Colchester in League Two, but it's really not come to fruition, really, which is a major surprise because he was one of the best young players in the league last season, and again, he's a tremendous asset to have, and I think Colchester are very lucky to have him still.
Yeah, they are. There's quite a few good young players at Colchester. We've already seen the likes of Poku make the step up to the championship. So yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that he's still here, but maybe these next 2 days could be the time for him to move up. Right then, Luke, do you want to run us through the rest of the scores then that happened in the league?
Yeah, so it started off with Wimbledon 1, Forest Green 1, Troy Deeney scored in that game. Barrow 1, Wrexham 1. Wrexham's slow start to the season continues. Bradford 1, Crewe 0. Gillingham 0, Colchester 3. Harrogate 2, Morecambe 0. Harrogate's first win of the season. Mansfield 3, Stockport County 2. MK Dons 2, Doncaster 1. Milton Keynes go top of the league. Newport County 3, Sutton United 1. Is it Will Evans continues his very speedy start to the season? I think it might have been his 5th goal in that game. Notts County 2, Tranmere 1, Salford 1, Accrington 2, Swindon 6, Crawley 0, and Walsall 1, Grimsby 1.
Lovely stuff. And looking at the table, as you've mentioned already, a couple there. Doncaster 24th and Sutton 23rd. They're the two in the relegation zone. Moving up, playoffs, we have Mansfield in 7th, then Newport, Wimbledon, Notts County in 4th there. And a top 3 of Accrington, Gillingham, and then MK Dons. Right. Da-da-da-da-da. Quick fire predictions.
It's your turn now.
It is my turn. I'm very excited. So for people that don't know this, we're going to go through the fixtures of the next weekend. And as it's my turn this week, I've got to answer them as quickly as possible, what I think the score will be.
So you ready then?
I am ready. Yeah.
Good. So the first one is Tranmere Wrexham.
2-1 Wrexham.
Crewe MK Dons.
3-0 Dons.
Doncaster Swindon.
I'm going to go for a 4-2 Swindon.
Grimsby Gillingham.
2-0 Gillingham.
Harrogate Barrow.
1-1.
Mansfield Bradford.
I'm going to go 3-2 Mansfield.
Morecambe Salford.
I'm going to go 1-1.
Newport Wimbledon.
I'm going to go... Wimbledon haven't lost yet, have they? So I'll go 2-1 Wimbledon.
Notts County Accrington.
2-1 County.
Stockport County Crawley.
I'll go 1-1.
Sutton United Forest Green.
1-0 Sutton.
And Walsall Colchester.
I'll go 2-2.
Yeah, that's all of them.
That is lovely. Right then, before we move on to League One, Luke did a little away day. You might have seen it on the TikTok and on the Instagram as well. But he witnessed Shrewsbury Town play away at Fleetwood. So, Luke, in our away days fashion, run us through your day.
Yeah, it was a very good day in the end. started to go up there. I think it was a 2 and a bit hour journey to get up there to Fleetwood. Started at 11 o'clock, got there about 1, 1:15. Had a walk around. My dad wanted to go see the beach. There wasn't much of one. It was quite nice. Well, it was better than we expected. Fleetwood was a town. We just thought it'd be another like Blackpool, but it wasn't. So that was quite nice. Then went to the chip shop on side the ground. That was all right. Wasn't anything outstanding, but I mean, it did the job. And then went into the ground. It was terracing, which was nice. Stood there for probably like half an hour, 45 minutes before the game started. Had a nice little chat to Marco Morosi. Didn't really said wash your head. I said okay. And then game started. Fleetwood on the front foot for most of it. And then their defender slips on the halfway line. Dan Udo's now through and slots it into the left-hand corner. And again, Shrewsbury fans go wild as we fought up to that point. We did not deserve to win. Then 2 minutes afterwards, Jay Lynch comes out of goal when Ryan Bowman's one-on-one and takes out the man and gets a red card. I mean, from my goalkeeper, I'd have probably let Bowman go round and score because if it's 11 versus 11, you've still got a good chance at 2-0 down. You've got less of a chance from 1-0 down with 10 men. That 10 men continued to fight for the rest of the second half, probably the better team as well, until Josh Earl got sent off in the 95th minute for a stamp on Elliot Bennett, and then that was basically the game done. I think Scott Brown is in deep mud at the moment. Fleetwood, if they were any good, they would have battered us, but they're not. So yeah, they're really bad at the moment, and their score, well, their points tally kind of proves that. Really, very worried for them. They didn't show anything really for most of the game.
Good stuff. What would you rate the stadium out of 10?
Probably a 4. I mean, I like terracing, but it just feels odd. I mean, the atmosphere was really bad too, especially on Fleetwood side. I mean, you didn't hear the home fans all game, which is quite unusual for one of them small grounds where you would have thought the atmosphere is quite big because it's so many people packed inside a small ground. It didn't go that way. Shrewsbury fans were actually quite loud, which is nice. But Fleetwood, I don't know. Maybe the fans having an off day, or maybe it's because they've lost 4 in a row now. And that might be another reason. But again, it's not looking great for Fleetwood, and I can see them going down very quickly through the leagues, to be fair, seeing as their owner is in prison. And the whole reason why they're in League One in the first place is because of that owner pushing a lot of money into the club. They were a Northern Premier side, probably something like that. And now they're a League One side, and that was over 10 years, wasn't it? Something like that. Yeah. And it's unsustainable. The crowds they get in, they're going to struggle this season. And you've seen it at Accrington. It finally caught up with Accrington. It looks like it might finally creep up with Burton too. So you do need a core fan base to consistently produce good performances in League One. And unfortunately, Fleetwood don't. They have that. I mean, it's not any of the players' fault or the fans actually goes fault. It's just money-wise, I don't think they can compete with most other clubs in the division if they did it sustainably.
Yeah. Right. Let's move on then. That was Luke's away day to Fleetwood. Right then. Let's move to League One, where you've just been talking. Let's look at another game then. Lincoln versus Blackpool. This one went the way of Lincoln 3-0. In this game, we saw 2 penalties, and there was a red card for Norburn for Blackpool there. So, a bit of a mixed start, I would say, for Blackpool. 15th in the league at the moment. They've picked up 6 points, but it's not really where you would want them to be, especially with Critchley coming in, and also seeing as they were relegated, they've still got one of the best squads in the league, I would say. But we'll see. But Lincoln, on the other hand, up to fourth place, 10 points. So let's start with Black. Let's get your thoughts on Blackpool, Luke. Obviously, the squad, they're making good signings. Right, first they're making good signings. They've signed Kamrot Dembele today, brother of Sariki Dembele from, is it Brest or something like that? He's come in on loan. They've picked up Matthew Pennington. Is it Pennington they've picked up? Or is that? Yeah, from you. Yeah, Matthew Pennington. And this sort of adds to what they were already building. Also, John Rhodes has come in there. So, they've got good players. Where do you think they're going to turn it round, or do you think this could be just their sort of year to get over? Obviously, they lost a lot of games last year, to get over that mentality.
I think it's going to be a slow process, to be honest with you. They've only scored 2 goals this season in 5 games. The only team with less than them is Cheltenham, who have scored 0. So again, it's not looking good in the attacking sense for Blackpool at the moment. Defensively, it's looking a little bit better. This game looks like a bit of an anomaly because these are the first 3 goals that they've conceded all season. So they're only on a -1 goal difference. But they all sat 15th for only 1 win in 5 games, which is not good enough for a Blackpool team that should be in the Championship. Again, for the life of me, I don't know why Critchley's not playing Matthew Pennington. There's got to be a reason behind it because, again, 90% of the time it's a Championship centre back. So I don't really get that. Lincoln, on the other hand, they're 4th. Performance-wise, they've only showed up in 2 games, really. It was this game and also the Wickham game. Both 3-0s, both times have played really well. But in the rest of the games, like against Northampton and against Shrewsbury, and I forgot which one their other game was against actually as well. Let's have a look. And against Bolton, they haven't really played well. They got away with it at Northampton. They got away with it at Shrewsbury. So I think this might be a little bit of a false position for Lincoln. I still think they'll do well this season, but it's looking a bit false at the moment. The performances aren't really there to match the points tally. So it was an awful day for Blackpool, a great day for Lincoln, and again, it's just a look that Lincoln need really. It obviously swings and roundabouts too, and they'll probably get unlucky for some games the rest of the season, but Lincoln going well, not strong after the next game against Wigan, so it's not really getting any better. They also lost 5-0 to Wolves on Tuesday night too, with basically a full strength team, which is not great again. So not looking the best for Neil Critchley's Blackpool side, who haven't won in 5 games.
No, yeah. We'll have to keep an eye on Blackpool because, yeah, as I started with when we started talking about this game, look, they've got the squad and agree with you. I don't know why Pennington's not starting. You're playing the likes of Ollie Casey over him. He's fairly untested and he's not had the greatest time at Blackpool. So yeah, I think we'll just have to keep an eye on him. Critchley just needs a little bit of time to get back into this squad because obviously he's had a couple of years away and obviously there's been a few changes. But Lincoln, on the other hand, they've got a great team as well there. When you've got the likes of people like Tyler Walker on the bench, he's somebody that can really do it for a team. When he comes on up front, if he can find the form he had a couple seasons ago before he went to Coventry. So we'll keep an eye on them. Right, let's move on to another game in this league then. And I think we have to talk about this game, and that was Peterborough United 2, Derby County 4. At the moment, it sees Derby County sit 8th with 9 points and Peterborough in 10th with 9 points as well. So both teams have had a fairly even start, I would say there then, when you're looking at the other teams that we've been talking about. And this game, again, I think it just went down to more who was clinical. Derby County obviously picking up 4 goals, but they only had 13 shots compared to Peterborough getting 2 goals off 17 shots. So it's sort of showing at the moment that some teams aren't taking the chances that they need to. What do you think, Luke?
Yeah, good players single-handedly win games, don't they? And I think that's what Martin Waghorn has done for Derby County. 3 goals in, was it 15 minutes for them? A hat trick, a really quick hat trick. People had question marks over him coming into Derby, seeing as he is 33 and he might not be at it as he once was, but he's certainly at it against Peterborough. Peterborough started probably, I don't know, I think it's probably fair to say that Peterborough started this game the better team, and for most of the first half, with a better team as well, opening the scoring through Johnson Clark Harris, who is being looked at by Bristol Rovers, which is a bit of an odd one. And then Martin Waghorn scored, then Erin Cashin scored a nice little header, and then it was both Waghorn goals in the 39th and the 45th minute, and then it was basically Derby's game to lose then, and they didn't. Only Poku scored in the 90th minute for Peterborough, and that was about it. Not much happened in the second half. It was obviously all Peterborough because Derby could sit on the 4-1 lead that they had at half time. And I think we might see the real Peterborough in this match, which is probably a higher end mid table team. And it's a really important win for Paul Warne too, who was facing down the barrel of gun really before this match, before this win.
Yeah, us talk about Clark Harris. You mentioned him a minute ago. And yeah, he's been looked at by Bristol Rovers, isn't he? Obviously, he used to play for them back in the day. But this is a man that was valued at £10 million last summer. Watford were trying to buy him. And it all seems to have gone a little bit quiet, hasn't it? It's I don't know whether it's because Peter didn't get promoted last year and people don't think he's as good as he was. If you're looking at his stats, he scored 76 goals and 153 appearances for Peterborough. And before this, he was at Bristol Rovers, where he picked up 27 and 52. So what do you think, Luke? Do you think he's not that... Well, I don't want to say he's not that good. I want to say, is he not going to the Championship?
I don't know. I obviously think that Bristol Rovers' new ownership want to put in a lot of money to this squad to try and get playoffs. I don't see why Johnson Clark Harris want to go back. It's kind of a backward step in his career. No offense to Bristol Rovers, but people were for championship moves. Again, Stoke, another club that were interested in him in the championship. And it's really not really come to fruition. Again, there might be something around him, maybe holding him back for League One that we just don't know. But I really doubt it. I think he's a championship player, and that's really it. I don't see why Bristol Rovers are the favourites to sign him at all. When there's again bigger clubs in this division that need strikers, like Derby County, for example, they wanted another striker. Why don't you go for Johnson Clark Harris? It's a bit of a weird one. He can do a job at Cardiff. He could do a job at Huddersfield. He can do a job at any probably bottom half championship team. So
Yeah.
I don't really see why he's not going there.
Yeah, I agree with you. He scores goals. He proved he could score goals in the Championship whilst he was there for that short period. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Maybe they don't like his attitude or something that we don't know. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. Obviously, 2 days to go until he could make a move or he stays at Peterborough. Right, one more game then in this league, and we've gone for, it's not the highest scoring game, but it's Oxford United 2, Charlton Athletic 1. The reason we've gone for this game is because this sees Oxford go at the top, 2 points clear of second, their first place, and Charlton are way down in 19th. So let's start with Charlton before we talk about. We've got a bit more to say about Oxford. I'm really surprised with Charlton, to be honest. They're a team last season who I said were going to be my sort of weird, like the ones you need to keep an eye out on, and it's just never really happened, has it? You know, they were signing good players. Blackett Taylor came in from Southend. He was a great prospect. And there's a few others, but it's just not happening. And it sees the first sacking now as well. 5 games in, indeed, Holden's been sacked. I can't get my head around why Hector is starting on the bench, a player that they signed from Premier League side Fulham. Don't know why he's on the bench, especially when you're conceding goals. And it's for me, Luke, it just feels a bit of a mess at the moment. Would you agree?
I do agree. I think it's really early to sack Dean Holden too. I mean, obviously, he hasn't had the best starts at Charlton, but on the other hand, he's just been given a 4-year contract by them,
Yeah.
literally last summer. Well, this summer. So why sack a manager that you're going to have to pay a massive compensation fee to after 5 games? Surely you'd leave it at 10, see what the damage is then,
Yeah.
because you've got a really talented squad, and the squad is not really showing that at the moment. I mean, they've made a few dodgy signings. I think Kamara is probably a dodgy one. I mean, 2 years ago he was a world beater in League One, but he's played 190 minutes and basically gave a goal away this season, and that's not really good enough for a Charlton midfielder. And it looks messy. I mean, I know Charlton fans thought this might be the season to break into the top 6. I don't think it will be, judged based on what they've done already, and I don't think they'll bring in any more players. I really don't. I don't think they'll be able to afford.
Yeah, right. It seems to be a real mess at Charlton. But let's look at Oxford then. A team that didn't do so well last year. It saw Carl Robertson get sacked after he's been there for 5, 6 seasons. They brought in Liam Manning, did really well with MK Dons 2 years ago, and last year got himself sacked there because they were in the relegation zone and obviously relegated. But it all seems to be fresh and all seems to be going well. A few good signings that we've already spoken about. Rodriguez from Notts County, Harris from Cardiff coming in on loan, Josh McEachran as well. So it all seems to be going well, doesn't it, Luke?
It does, and they're now top of the league, which is massive for them. Dean Holden has not Dean Holden. What's his name? Liam Manning has already put in an identity to this Oxford team. They're really fast on the counter, which will be good against good sides.
Right then, Luke, do you want to run us through the rest of the scores in League One?
So it started off on Saturday, the 26th of August, with Bristol Rovers 1, Wycombe Wanderers, Burton 1, Bolton 1, Cheltenham 0, Northampton 1, Exeter 2, Reading 1, Fleetwood 0, Shrewsbury 1, Leyton Orient 2, Cambridge United 0, Lincoln 3, Blackpool 0, Oxford United 2, Charlton 1, Peterborough 2, Derby 4, Port Vale 1, Carlisle 0, Stevenage 0, Portsmouth 0, and Wigan 0, Barnsley 2.
Lovely stuff. If I just run through the table quickly, then the relegation battle has 4 teams in League One. So in 24th, we have Cheltenham, 23rd, Fleetwood, 22nd, Burton, and 21st. Ooh, there we go. 21st, Carlisle. In the playoffs, we have Port Vale in 6th, then Stevenage, Lincoln, and Bolton in 3rd, and then top 2 of Exeter and Oxford. Right. Da 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 da. Quick fire predictions.
All right, so we'll start this off with Blackpool Wigan then.
2-1 Wigan.
Bolton Derby.
1-1.
Bristol Rovers Lincoln.
2-2.
Burton Exeter.
1-0 Exeter.
Carlisle Shrewsbury.
3-1 Shrewsbury.
Charlton Fleetwood.
I'll go 1-0.
Cheltenham Barnsley.
4-0 Barnsley.
Leyton Orient Stevenage.
2-1 Stevenage.
Northampton Wycombe.
0-0.
Oxford United Port Vale.
3-1 Oxford.
Portsmouth Peterborough.
2-2.
And then on the Monday, it's Cambridge versus Reading.
I'm going to go 1-0. 1-0. Right. That's nice and easy. Right, let's move on up then to the Championship. We've selected a few games. There's a lot more goals, has to be said, in the Championship. And we've gone for West Brom 4, Middlesbrough Town 2 as our first game. And I think we need to start with Middlesbrough. Um, 22nd, Luke, 1 point from their first 4 games. It's not been an ideal start for Michael Carrick. I understand they've lost Chuba Akpom. He's left them. He's found his way over to Ajax. And there hasn't really been a sort of replacement for him yet. They've brought Morgan Rogers in from Man City. He's definitely a player that needs to, get on with it now because he hasn't really done anything since his time at Lincoln. But do you think it is because of Akpom leaving? They've sort of lost that creativity, or do you think it's something else?
Well, I've also lost the loans from last season too, like Cameron Archer, Aaron Ramsey as well. I think he was playing for Middlesbrough. If I'm, was he? Yeah,
Yeah.
let's be honest. They've lost basically the whole attack. Really, I don't think any of their attack this year starts last year, because Laugh, Silvera, and McGree are not good enough for Middlesbrough, or haven't been playing good enough for Middlesbrough so far this season. The defense is a bit shoddy too. I mean, it didn't really help in this game with Smith getting sent off in the 51st minute, and that was at a stage of the game where it was only 3-1. So they could theoretically have got back into that match, and well, they just left it too late in the end with a Marcus Force penalty in the 85th minute to bring it back to 3-2. But then in added time, Sarmiento scored for West Brom to make it 4-2. And it's been a terrible start for Michael Carrick's Middlesbrough. They don't look anything like the side they were last year. And quite rightly, they're in 22nd position, and I don't see them moving out of it anytime soon. I mean, they probably will win the season, but they're just playing so badly at the moment.
Yeah, they definitely need to strengthen in these next 2 days up front because, as you said there, the likes of Aaron Ramsey gone, Archer. Who else? They had somebody else. I can't remember who. Don't worry about that. Also picked up a red card in this game as well for their right back of Smith, so he's out for the next game. And let's. I think we'll just leave it there because it's not been a great start at all. So I think we'll give them the benefit of the doubt for the next few games, but then after that, there needs to be a massive improvement if they're going to hit the expectations that they're set last season. And also in our predictions as well, we both put them right near the top. West Brom, though, a team that is sort of had a great start, I would say, actually, because in the table at the moment, currently sat seventh, 7 points from the first 4 games. Let's start on the lineup before we move right into this game. There's not too many changes in that starting 11. Thomas Asante is still the man up top scoring the goals, and they've still got Jeb Wallace and John Swift as well in the midfield behind. Josh Madger is on the bench. He can't really get into the team at the moment. And Sarmiento as well has come off the bench recently on loan from Brighton, scoring a goal. Do you think West Brom have got? I think they've got quite a good sort of squad that here. I don't think it's good enough to challenge for the automatics, and I think they've sort of got that outside chance of getting in the playoffs. But I think it's a nice balanced squad. Would you agree?
I don't think it's a good squad. I think it's a good first 11.
Yeah.
I think first 11 is definitely good enough to be competing at the top half of the championship. Again, Peters, I think in the match against Middlesbrough, got the most passes in the game. It was a load of passes. I think they had one of the most passes in championship history this game. Mainly because Middlesbrough had down to 10 men. But yeah, people like Jed Wallace, Swift, and Brandon Thomas Asante are a good three up front. They've got a good core of I don't like pronouncing names, but it's Yakuslu, and Malumbi in midfield as well, and Kipre at the back. Yeah, they've got the first starting 11, but the bench does worry me. Like Townsend, it has played a lot of games in his career. He is 30 years old, so he's okay for a bench player. But Alex Moat not had the career he would have liked after being so good at Barnsley a few years ago. Josh Madger, again, he's probably good off the bench, but Bartley, not really, shouldn't really be anywhere near this West Brom team. Ingram is a youngster too, and Griffiths is a backup keeper. So don't really have much coming off the bench apart from Madger and Sacramento at the moment. And that should probably worry West Brom fans at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But we'll have to keep an eye on both teams. One needs to improve, and one it could do better than expected. So let's move to another game. Let's go to our highest scoring game, and that was Ipswich Town 3, Leeds United 4. This is Ipswich's first loss of the season, and this was definitely a win that Leeds needed. The most notable thing that can be seen in this Leeds game is that Wilfred Gnotto played. Obviously looked like he was off to Everton, but doesn't seem to be at the moment. But also, not only that, he did score. Rutter scored, Joe Pirro scored, and Sinistera scored. So all four attackers getting on the score sheet there for Daniel Farke's side. But we'll start with Ipswich. Ipswich haven't made too many signings, especially after they splashed out in League One last year. They've just brought Williams in on loan from Manchester United, and also he's coming on loan from with alongside Amari Hutchinson from Chelsea. How do you think they're realistically going to get on, Luke? Because a fantastic start, so we'll go top of the league last weekend, but obviously that isn't going to happen when you've got teams as powerful as Leeds and Leicester, and I would say even Southampton at the moment are looking pretty special.
I still think they'll be right up there. Maybe not top two, but maybe top six. I think that's a very reasonable aspiration for this Ipswich team. They've shown that they can compete with the top teams. And I think they were probably lucky against Leeds as well, having more XG, 2.47 to 1.63. Leeds just really clinical, very clinical. And on the Leeds half of this, it's a very encouraging performance. It was a statement win for Leeds, and they very much needed this. Again, you got Rutter, who they signed last year for like £30 million, that didn't really get a game in the Premier League. He's finally scored his first goal. Nonto is finally playing back football for Leeds after throwing his toys out the pram. Joel Perot scoring on his debut too. That's excellent for Leeds. Hopefully that gives him a bit of confidence to score loads more goals this season. And Luis Sinistera, another player who has come back into the fold at Leeds too after following Nonto for a couple less games than Nonto. But it's looking better for Leeds. Not amazing, but better at the moment.
Yeah, no, I agree. The Notto coming back obviously is going to add so much to this squad, team, and obviously picking up a goal. Still a few notable injuries. Patrick Bamford, I would like to see him get a season under his belt, or not a season, at least play a part without getting injured, especially when he got injured in a celebration. We don't want that again. But yeah, I think we'll keep an eye on Leeds. I think they're definitely going to be top six. And as you said, Ipswich have definitely got what it takes to be at the top of the league as well. Right, we'll look at one more game, and we've picked Huddersfield Town 0, Norwich City 4. Not really the ideal start for Neil Warnock here, as Huddersfield find themselves down in 23rd. But on the other hand, Norwich City up in second. They're having a much better season already than last year, aren't they, Luke? And especially with a new star boy in Jonathan Rose standing out as well on that left wing, picking up 4 goals already this year. How do you think Norwich will be feeling right now?
Yeah, ecstatic if you're a Norwich fan. George Bowman must be very happy at the moment. He's seeing his team play really good football. David Wagner has got a really good hold of this Norwich team and has identified a style of play that he likes to play. Again, Rowe, 5 goals in 5 games for him so far this season, including the Carabao Cup game. And it's incredible to see this turnaround for Norwich. They were a bit crap last season, and they've turned into world beaters this season, being one of quite a few actually unbeaten teams this season in the Championship. 3 wins and 1 draw. They're looking like the real deal at the moment, and I hope they keep improving. Obviously, Sargent's injured at the moment. We don't know how long he's going to be out for, but Adam Eder coming on, scoring a goal, that's going to do a world of good for Norwich's confidence this season.
Yeah, yeah. I think Jonathan Rose obviously comes through their academy, and I think it's always nice to see. I think we see probably at least one of these sorts of player a year. 2 years ago, it was Anthony at Bournemouth. Last year, you could say it was Iliman and Dye. Maybe Jonathan Rose is going to be that player that comes through the academy and does star boy of the Championship. It's definitely showing that that could be him at the moment. But let's look then at Huddersfield, a team that's never really bounced back from their playoff final loss to Nottingham Forest. Again, so Neil Warnock obviously came in last season, helped keep them up. But apart from that, it's not been great. Lee Nichols is obviously back in goal. And it's just, I don't know. It just doesn't seem as, they haven't seen as excited as when Carlos Corberan was obviously in charge. And again, the team just doesn't seem as qualified. I'll say the word qualified. Well, what do you think? Obviously, they got sore with Thomas Luke, but I don't know. The Danny Ward up top just doesn't seem to be doing it for me anymore. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, they don't look great. Will not. I mean, Rodoni is quite a good talent, but that's the only spark in their team that I can see. Tom Edwards is also a pretty good player at this level. A Karoma as well, but realistically, I think this Huddersfield town side are probably going to be into a relegation battle this season. I think they already are, and again, it's what Neil Warnock craves. He doesn't like being safe mid-table. He likes these gritty battles in relegation. And I think that's what Huddersfield fans are probably going to expect this season. They don't have the quality in their team to push any higher than the bottom 3. Well, the bottom 6 at the moment, to be completely honest with them. Again, their bench doesn't look great. Predominantly young players on the bench. And yeah, it's the squad doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence, to be completely honest with you.
No, it doesn't. As you said there, there's one or two, but apart from that, no, they haven't invested correctly, or not at all. No, sorry, not at all, not enough. And if you're comparing it to the squad, as I said, for that Forest game, we had Harry Toffolo, Lewis O'Brien, big players, Levy Colwell as well was in there. Big players who are now up in the Premier League. Well, probably not for very long, a couple of them, but they don't seem like the same team. And to me, it's looking a bit like League One already for them. Right then, that will do for us looking at games. Lou, do you want to run us through the rest of the scores?
I will do. So this was the 26th of August again. Actually started on the 25th with Hull 1, Bristol City 1. And then on 26th, it was Birmingham 2, Plymouth 1. Jake Stansfield scoring in the 90-something minute against his arch enemy in Plymouth. Cardiff 2, Sheffield Wednesday 1. Coventry 0, Sunderland 0. Huddersfield 0, Norwich 4, Ipswich 3, Leeds 4. Millwall 1, Stoke 0, Preston 2, Swansea 1, Rotherham 1, Leicester 2, Southampton 2, QPR 1, West Brom 4, Middlesbrough 2, and on the Sunday it was Watford 0, Blackburn 1.
Lovely stuff. And I have a little look at the table. The 3 in the relegation zone, 2 already mentioned. Bottom of the table, still yet to win. We have Sheffield Wednesday. We'll probably talk about them next week after they probably don't win again. 23rd, we have Huddersfield. 22nd, Middlesbrough. Looking at the playoffs, then we have Ipswich in 6th, then Preston in 5th, Southampton in 4th, Birmingham in 3rd. And then our top 2, one already mentioned, 2nd place, Norwich City, and top of the league, Leicester City. Could they stay top for the rest of the season? We'll have to see, especially after 4 wins out of 4. Right then. quick fire predictions.
Yeah, so it starts on Saturday, the 2nd of September with Birmingham Millwall.
2-0 Birmingham.
It's Sunderland Southampton.
3-1 Sunderland.
Swansea Bristol City.
1-0 Bristol City.
Coventry Watford.
1-0 Coventry.
Ipswich Cardiff.
2-1 Ipswich.
Leeds Sheffield Wednesday.
6-0 Leeds.
Leicester Hull.
3-0.
Middlesbrough QPR.
1-0.
Plymouth Blackburn.
2-0 Plymouth.
Rotherham Norwich.
1-0 Norwich.
Stoke Preston.
2-1 Stoke.
And West Brom Huddersfield.
0-0.
That's it.
That is it. Lovely stuff. So that sort of wraps us up nicely there. I hope we've talked about a lot. If you have anything that you want us to talk about in the future, message our Instagram. That's _@EFL@URN. I'm sure one of us will reply and we'll maybe discuss in the future. Other than that, make sure you look at the TikTok. Make sure you look at the Twitter, Instagram. We're on YouTube, all EFL@URN. You'll see us, the same logo as this podcast. But yeah, thank you for listening. Luke, have you got anything you want to add?
No.
That's nice, short and brief. Love that. Right then, thank you for listening and please do tune in next week.